Twin Flames, Scorpio Full Moon edition coming at you this weekend. We've got the Divine Masculine here. I want to say he is finally seeing through that illusion, but is he going to act on that truth? Divine Feminine, you got the Magician card, and so this really is a call for you this weekend to reclaim back your power, to create your own reality from the ashes of the old and the combined energy with the twins. We got majors. We got some big energies. We got 3 majors, and the world in reverse is saying together there is still a karmic cycle that is lingering here. This is screaming unfinished business, but fate is calling both of the twins to rise. This full moon in Scorpio is not just revealing. I want to say it is awakening. Are you ready to meet your mirror? If you're ready to meet your mirror, hit that like button and let's get into these weekend energies. Hey, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome back. It is Laura, and we are going to dig deep into the astrology for the moon energies this weekend. And so all of these transits this weekend between the moon and Scorpio, Mercury, Pluto, Mars, this is all building for that exact opposition between the moon and the sun on Monday, May the 12th. And I want to talk about this because this is a very important transformative portal for the Twin Flame Collective. And so first we do got to talk about Mercury's ingress into Taurus. I did touch base on it slightly during the last Twin Flame energy update, but let's first get that pulled up on the screen and let's talk about these energies coming in for the twins this weekend. Okay, so let me get that pulled up and we're going to dig deep into this ingress. Okay, all right, there we got it. We see Mercury ingressing into Taurus. This is happening on May the 10th at 8:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in my local area of the world. So let's take a deeper look at Mercury here. I'm going to click on it. As you can see in this ingress, it's still sitting at that 29-degree 59 in Aries. This is just moments before it ingresses into Taurus. And so these are the aspects that are happening with Mercury. It is kind of in that conjunction to Priapus and Taurus, and I am going to talk about that energy further along here. We see it in a conjunction to Chiron in Aries. It's in a sextile to the 10th house. It's in a square to Pluto, which is still sitting at that 3-degree 48. And it is in an opposition to Lilith in Scorpio, to the moon in Libra, and it is in a trine to the 4th house. And so this is significant, right? So let's talk about this a little bit, because when Mercury ingresses into Taurus, it's going to be at that 0 degree. So we're at that analytical, potent reorientation. That's really what's going on here, right? It's a reorientation of the mind, of the voice, of our perceptions, right? With Mercury moving into Taurus, this is where we begin a new mental cycle. And this is where our focus shifts to slowing down the mind, right? It's slowing down the mind, attuning the mind with the body and the intuition, and grounding in this abstract and this spiritual knowledge. And so this is all about practical wisdom and speaking and thinking in alignment with our true values and our integrity. And so this is pretty significant, okay? And this is why I wanted to talk about this before going into all of the moon energies, because the moon is going to be in an opposition to Mercury at 0 degree 37, which is also pretty significant, right? And so that 0 degree point, that anaretic degree point, is the beginning of a new cycle. Whenever I see a 0 point, that to me is screaming untapped, unlimited God energy, right? So let's first talk a little bit about all of these aspects. We're going to break them down because I do feel the Mercury opposite Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, this is mental illumination, right? And it's going to bring all of this hidden power to the surface, any shame or anything connected to the suppressed inner feminine. And we all have an inner feminine, even if you resonate as a divine masculine. And so collectively, this opposition is going to pierce through all of those layers of repression. That's what it's going to do, especially around the voice. So a throat chakra recalibration around the voice of the wild, untamed feminine energy, the Lilith energy. And so communication or thoughts are going to be either infused with shame, seduction, or liberation, right? And so there's likely going to be a mental confrontation with all of your own hidden desires, anything that you kind of resonate as taboo or what's maybe been long denied. And so with Mercury's ingress into Taurus, I do feel the divine feminine is going to feel this urge to speak her truth. Okay, you're going to feel this urge to speak your truth. And I do feel this really is going to be around themes of sexuality, past betrayals, and past abandonment wounds. And this could also trigger that fear of rejection, okay? And so this really is a chance, I want to say, for the Divine Feminine Collective to reclaim that raw, primal voice and that part of you that doesn't want to conform or doesn't want to apologize. The Divine Masculine, I feel, is going to be challenged by this intuitive or this emotional truth that is going to shake his very foundation to the core, and it's going to feel like he's possibly losing that sense of control. And so this could be a lot of projection or a lot of suppression, but I do feel there's going to be a lot of pushing, of engaging in emotional vulnerability for the Divine Masculine if he's open. This transit could allow him to integrate his own inner shadow feminine and release the fear of the Divine Feminine's power. So I think that's pretty significant, okay, coming through in these energies. So let's look at this. Let's zoom this in a little bit more. I want you to kind of see what's going on here. We're going to zoom it in on the screen, okay? And so there we have it, zoomed in a bit for you to see a little bit more clearly. And then we see Mercury here in a square to Pluto in Aquarius. This is where the mind meets power, where our communication skills meet transformation, okay? And so this square is going to force that truth into the open, and it's going to be in that box, and you're not going to be able to avoid this truth, especially truth around power and this resistance to change, right? Because Pluto does demand that change. And so collectively, this can bring forward and trigger a lot of obsessive tendencies and control tendencies. There could be fear-based communication if you're not conscious of what is going on. But this is also going to open up a doorway opportunity to speak words that can liberate generations from this mental programming of the past. And that's what the twins came here to do, to clear this generational programming, this generational trauma. And so I kind of feel the Divine Feminine is really going to be asked to speak up against any social injustices. That's how you reclaim back your voice from this patriarchal system, okay? And so we are here to rewire our mental beliefs that have been rooted in trauma that we carry forward through our sacral chakra, through the womb chakra, throughout generation after generation, okay? And so this is really a lot of shadow work, I want to say, for the Divine Feminine that is taking place through the throat chakra, okay? So get ready for throat chakra activation, Divine Feminine. Divine Masculine, I kind of feel there's resistance going to be showing up here, right? Because there is this deep sense, I want to say, of fear of change for the Divine Masculine Collective, or losing that control, or perhaps fear of saying too much. And so this aspect for the Divine Masculine Collective is really going to challenge all of their ego defenses. And it's really asking the Divine Masculine to step up into that emotional vulnerability, right? And then we see the Mercury energy sextile the 10th house in Aquarius. The MC is in Aquarius at the time of this ingress, okay? And so really what this is challenging is that visionary thinking, right? And this is supported by destiny and purpose at this time. And so there's going to be ideas, there's going to be conversations, I think, this weekend that could really directly influence your long-term soul purpose or your mission, okay? And so the public roles we're here to step into, the soul work we're here to do, It's going to be visibly activated, I feel, throughout these weekend energies. It's like they showed me the green light. So the green light to start expressing your deeper truth. So Divine Feminine, you're probably going to be receiving a lot of intuitive insights. I do feel you're going to be receiving a lot of intuitive insights this weekend that are really going to give you those nudges about your mission work and the next career move or mission work you're here to do. And so all of these communications are going to be aligned with your service mission for the collective. And when you align to your mission, that's when your whole path is really going to begin to flourish. Okay, Divine Feminine. So really think about that. Divine Masculine, you are encouraged to align with that higher vision for your own personal truth and your own personal path. And so you could probably be receiving internal or external messages about where your leadership is going to be needed in the collective. And with Mercury in a trine to the 4th house of Leo, this is rooting in that communication. That's how I feel about that. It's rooting in the communication in authenticity and in that heart-centered truth. And so collectively, we have an opportunity to speak from the heart. Okay. And words are not just logic. I want to say they have to be rooted in our ancestral memory. We all have an ancestral memory. We all have an emotional history. And this is connected to our own personal soul truth. Okay. And so Divine Feminine, you're probably going to be revisiting themes around family or inner child. Deeply rooted inner child wounds are probably coming up for the Divine Feminine, where you have been held back from expressing your truth, or maybe where you have been once afraid of speaking your truth. And this is where I want to say the Divine Masculine's inner world kind of gets stirred up a little bit here. Okay. And so this is really interesting energy. So I kind of feel this is like a recall energy for the Divine Masculine of all of these old emotional patterns, where he's going to realize how his upbringing has actually shaped his communication style. And so this trine energy to the 4th house really is supporting that emotional maturity of the Divine Masculine, but only through that deep inner self-reflection. And then we've got Mercury also in a trine to that 7th house, as we can see here, right? And so this is really beautiful energy. If we think about the 7th house, it does rule relationships, it's partnerships, it's our one-on-one relationships. It does represent our relationship to ourselves as well. And so the main theme coming through with this is soul contracts, relationships, the truth-telling energy in any type of union or partnership. And so this creates a very harmonious flow, though. Trines create a very harmonious flow between the way that we think, the way that we speak, our deeper purpose, and all of our relationships. And so right now, contracts, spiritual or literal contracts, are going to come up for clarity. And so this is the ideal transit for that heartfelt truth in order to ground in sacred partnerships. And so Divine Feminine, you may finally get to an understanding of why certain connections had to play out the way that they did for your own path. And you are encouraged to speak your truth in love, not from fear, but from a place of alignment. And Divine Masculine might be feeling inspired to reach out or express his truth too, but I do feel they all have a choice here, right? If they've been silent, if they've been avoidant, they can choose to overcome those emotional blocks, or they can choose to stay stuck in those emotional blocks. But there's going to be like a higher relationship vision coming through. I do feel for the Divine Masculine. And then we also see that Mercury energy in that opposition to the moon. And so I kind of feel this is the emotional lens coming forward, where we do seek that peace. We do seek that balance and that harmony before it's in that opposition to the moon going to be in Scorpio. And so there's a deep desire, I feel, with this ingress of Mercury into Taurus for that resolution, right? For that balance in communication. But with Mercury's entrance into Taurus, this is where we demand it, right? And it might not be nice. It might not be nice when that truth comes out, because I do feel the Divine Feminine is going to be feeling super emotionally sensitive, because she's just going to want that peace. And so the astrology of this ingress is asking the Divine Feminine to find that balance, to find that softness with that fierce honesty of what you will no longer tolerate. And divine masculine, you're going to be probably feeling the need to keep the peace or to avoid conflict. But what I want to say is suppression and avoidance isn't going to serve you in these energies. This is about heart-centered expression. And so the message I feel for the twins really is this ingress is not just a shift in communication. It's a portal doorway opening for those that are ready to step into that embodied truth. So ask yourself, where have you compromised your truth or your voice just to keep the peace? Because that's not what we're here to do. Where are you afraid to own your power or the truth because you're afraid of the impact it might have on others? Because right now we have an opportunity to speak from the soul and to ground in what truly matters rather than rehearsing the past or defending the ego. And so right now I feel this is a pivotal time for the twins to move out of that mental confusion, that emotional avoidance, and to move into direct, embodied, heart-centered communication, even if it's just simply energetic for now, okay? So we're going to move on to the next transit. I'm going to pull up the next chart because I do want to dissect and pick apart the moon in Scorpio in that direct opposition to Mercury in Taurus at 0 degrees 37, because I was shown this energy of the King of Cups in reversed. So let's pull up that chart. Let me see here. We get this Scorpio moon opposite Mercury. There we go. Let's pull that up on the screen and let's zoom in on the moon energies here. We see the ascendant in Libra, the descendant in Aries. We've got the 4th house in Capricorn, which would then put the 10th house in Cancer. And so we still see that square between Pluto. We get the oppositional energy now between the vertex, Mercury, Chiron, and Priapus. And as you can see here, if we zoom in, we have the moon in that conjunction to the anti-vertex and Lilith. It's in that quincunx, which is an inconjunct aspect to Saturn and Neptune. And so we do have Saturn going to be moving into that 29th degree of Pisces. And that's where things are going to get really deep. But that's not going to happen until just after the full moon energy. So we will get further into those messages. But let's talk about this, okay? Because this is pretty significant, this opposition, right? And so at that 0 degree, it is an anaretic degree. But first I want to talk about the moon in Scorpio and the anti-vertex, because this is a very potent energy. The moon in Scorpio, it really is a lot of emotional intensity, transformational, deep psychological, transformational energy and insights. And we're kind of in this energy of going through a very powerful emotional rebirth somewhere throughout our life, wherever this is taking place in your own personal birth chart. For me, this is falling in my 9th house, pardon me, my 9th house of Scorpio. So the anti-vertex. So the vertex is considered the fated meeting point, right? The vertex is associated with our destiny, our karmic connections, the people who come into our lives to change us. The anti-vertex is a little bit more internal and a little bit more personal, and it reflects what we bring to these destined moments and our shadow perceptions and our own internal processes connected to our emotional patterns that get activated when fate comes knocking on that door. And so with the moon and Scorpio in that conjunction to the anti-vertex, this is deep emotional activation energy. The moon, our emotions, conjunct the anti-vertex, that internal counterpart to our destiny. This is the emotional body that is deeply linked to how we experience these fated encounters, right? It's not just simply reacting to them, it's being forced to transform through them. And so because this conjunction is in Scorpio, which is the sign of death and rebirth, right? Transformation, emotional experiences with destiny are going to be intense. They're going to be catalytic. And so you're probably going to be feeling this strong need for control or emotional safety in the face of this change and adversity this weekend. And you might even attract a powerful inner shift through a relationship that is likely going to be very karmic. This is the implosion of the karmic relationships. And so really this activation is to allow us to become deeply aware of our deep-seated fears and these emotional woundings that we hold during these moments of synchronistic, significant encounters, right? And so this is kind of the moment in time where these subconscious patterns are going to get exposed. There's going to be emotional baggage surfacing, especially around loss, betrayal, trust, power struggles. This fated event is going to trigger something hidden that needs to be purged, but it's alchemical. This is a very alchemical turning point where we can turn this emotional transformation into gold. And so shadow work is going to be inevitable, okay? So we can't avoid the shadow work because Scorpio and the anti-vertex are both pointing to what's underneath the surface. This is where we are wired for this deep emotional shadow work. So intense emotional situations are going to arise that are going to feel outside of your control. That's the Scorpio theme here. And it's here to help us see ourselves clearly so we can polish that mirror, okay? And so this is not just how others affect you, but this is how we show up when we are put under pressure or facing some type of emotional crisis. We all carry emotional energy in these fated moments. It's not like the vertex, right? The vertex brings the people, brings the experiences to us. The anti-vertex shows us what we bring to these experiences. And so this is going to be a powerful moment of emotional intensity. It's going to be a key life moment for a lot of us, especially for those that have that Libra rising. And so unconsciously, we magnetize dramatic events to us. We don't even realize that we're doing it. And that's what Scorpio does. Scorpio will keep attracting usually people into their lives to reaffirm that betrayal energy, right? And so right now, this is how others are also seeing us too emotionally during this significant transition that's taking place this weekend. And so I just want to say there is some empowerment tips that they want me to share with you, right? If we practice emotional regulation and awareness, this is really going to help us during these highly charged energies this weekend. Really explore those themes of where you become emotionally enmeshed in relationships, or where you try to dominate power or control in a relationship, right? Use the Scorpio tools that we all have in our spiritual toolbox to do this shadow work. And so shadow work, therapy, journaling, rituals, process everything that is arising. Don't avoid it. So I do want to touch base on Priapus, right? Because I said we would touch base on Priapus. And as you can see, Priapus, let me zoom right in here. So Priapus is right up here, right beside the vertex, okay? It's those two little triangles. We have one more, kind of looks like a Christmas tree. But that's that symbol. It's at 4 degrees 59, which is also carrying this vibration for me of the Emperor and the 5 of Swords. And so this is a huge shift, I want to say, for the divine masculine collective. Priapus is connected to the masculine, is always directly opposite Lilith, okay? So Priapus is not a planet, it's not an asteroid, it's a calculated mathematical point. It is a point on the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth, and it is always directly opposite Lilith, the black moon Lilith, which is the farthest point from the Earth, okay? Similar to the vertex and the anti-vertex, they're always completely opposite one another. And so if you think of it like this, the black moon Lilith, the apogee, the farthest point from the Earth, and Priapus, the perigee, the closest point to the Earth, they are always going to be exactly opposite in a birth chart. We all have these in our own birth chart. And so the symbolism of Priapus. So if we think about the symbolism of Lilith, she represents rejection, suppression, independence, raw feminine power, and detachment from societal norms, earthly norms. Whereas Priapus, the opposite energy, represents craving, desire, vulnerability, and that deep, deep hunger to connect. And so right now, this is like the exaggerated longing of that energy, right? Where you want too much, you feel too exposed, or where your needs are going to be very raw and very primal. And with Priapus in the 7th house, this is manifesting as that deep hunger, like hungry like the wolf energy for partnership or validation through others. And so we're not here to seek that external validation through our partnerships though, right? And so because this is an anaretic degree happening at this time, we're at that climactic moment of this inner versus the outer truth. And so this is that emotional intensity that is in conflict with the grounded logic of that Taurus energy. And so a big, big push-pull dynamic of what I feel versus what I say. Okay, and so this is really important because I do feel the divine feminine is going to be feeling like the mind and the heart are at odds. And so we do have to alchemize the head and the heart. I'm actually feeling heart pain. So the heart is really in focus, I want to say, with this energy. So the divine feminine could be experiencing a deep emotional release, particularly around all of her own unspoken truths. Spirit really is urging you, divine feminine, to trust in your intuition and to not over-explain yourself. Do not over-explain yourself to be understood. Not everybody is here to understand you, and that's okay. All right? It's okay to be misunderstood, divine feminine. Divine masculine, you're probably going to be feeling very overwhelmed by the depth of the emotions that are surfacing under this Scorpio moon. You're going to feel the need to retreat into silence, and you're probably going to try and over-logically analyze these feelings almost to a point of paralysis analysis. So you are being asked to ground in your emotions, and we do that by simply being honest, okay? So that's a big message for you, divine masculine. So I'm going to pull up the next chart, okay? I'm going to pull it up. We're going to go and look at Mercury in that square to Pluto. Okay, Mercury, or not Mercury, pardon me, the Scorpio moon in a square to Pluto. Let's pull that chart up. Okay, so here we got it. We're going to go click on that moon because, man, this moon energy is fierce, let me tell you. Okay, so there we have it. We have it still in that opposition, but we're really going to focus on this square energy. And we do see Pluto in Aquarius in the first house, which is at 29 degrees Sagittarius, that anaretic degree. And so we all know squares create tension. And so I do feel with this square, this is emotional purging, okay? Emotional purging of the power struggles, of the shadow dynamics. There's likely going to be an inner confrontation with our own personal inner traumas or toxic patterns connected to love and attachment. And so ancestrally, I do feel the divine feminine is dealing with a lot of subconscious trauma that is likely going to surface, particularly around abandonment wounding and betrayal wounding. And there's going to be this intense need to release that control over the outcome of the journey, right? We do have to surrender control of the journey or even our desired outcome. It all has to be released. But this is a huge opportunity for that soul rebirth for the divine feminine. Divine masculine will be confronting that fear of being emotionally dominated or vulnerable, and they're likely going to project and resist, okay? But this is also them being given the chance to reclaim their inner power as well. So this square can lead to a lot of breakthroughs, especially for the divine masculine connected to self-realization. If he leans into it, though, he's going to have to lean into it, okay? So let's quickly pull up the chart of the moon in a square to Mars in Leo. And so this is also very significant, okay? This is going to be at 10 degrees, 41. We can see Mars there sitting in the 12th house here. You see Mars sitting in the 12th house. And then we're going to have the moon, which is going to be in that square energy in the 3rd house of Libra. Okay, so let's just click on that moon energy again. And there we see it. Okay, we got that semi-square aspect to the south node as well playing out. And we've got this sesquiquadrate. I'm sure I didn't say that right. Playing out with the 8th house energy kind of going into there. Okay, so we got some transformational energies at play here. Okay, so this is also a pretty significant energy because this is kind of where passion meets that friction. Okay, so this is going to be really important to work through these energies as well. So this is going to be a very volatile emotional trigger coming up. It's going to activate that raw desire. It's going to activate the old wounds of rejection and pride. Okay, that's going to be challenged. And so I kind of feel the divine feminine is working through the wounding of feeling emotionally hurt or unseen, especially if she's been dealing with a masculine who is emotionally unavailable or emotionally defensive or has completely become a ghost. But this is a deep call for the feminine to transmute that pain into creative self-expression. This is also the moment of triggering that sacred rage to the surface. I do think the divine masculine is going to feel attacked or provoked, especially if the divine feminine is pushing and speaking that truth of what she desires and what she's no longer going to allow. This is going to feel like an attack or provocation against the divine masculine ego. It's like his ego is being tested. Is he going to react or is he going to respond? And so this is an invitation for the masculine to take action from the heart and to not be defensive. Okay, so now let's pull up the chart of the full moon in Scorpio, which is taking place on Monday. And normally I would incorporate this into the weekly forecast, but this is such a big energy that we're working with all weekend. I do feel like we need to talk about it right now. So let's pull up that chart of the Scorpio full moon on Monday, May the 12th. And here we have it. So during the full moon, the ascendant will be in Leo, the 12th house in Cancer, and the moon, as you can see, is going to be sitting in that fourth house. Pardon me, in that fourth house of Scorpio. We see the fourth house sitting at a karmic degree at 14 degrees 48, bringing forward the energy of temperance and the Four of Swords. So healing, this is the death of an idea, the death of an old mindset, the death of a deep ancestral rooted pattern. The moon at 22 degrees is also very significant here. It's at 22 degrees 12. And so there's the Fool energy along with the Hanged Man energy of gaining that new perspective. And so this is huge. This is the moment of that emotional transformation. This is the moment of releasing control. This is death and rebirth energy, okay? Truth is going to be revealed. Shadow integration is going to be needed. And let's face it, Scorpio full moons are never light. They're never fluffy. They cut deep. And I'm hearing that song, The First Cut is the Deepest. And I think it's by Sheryl Crow. So this full moon is going to stir up everything hidden, connected to emotions, psychological patterns, fears. It's going to bring them to the surface because we can't release them if we repress them and we don't acknowledge them. And so this is all about the purge, the big purge of the old to make room for the new and the renewal. And because this is taking place at a master number degree, this is a very powerful manifestation portal of emotional maturity, and it is going to feel like a karmic reckoning. You think of the fourth house, it's our emotional core, it's our home, it's our roots, it's the house of home, family, ancestral lineage, childhood. It's our inner world, it's our private life, it's our emotional security. And with the Scorpio full moon landing in that fourth house, this is ancestral clearing. It's ancestral trauma, it's family karma being dredged up, it's healing all of these inner child wounds, it's letting go of the toxic emotional legacies so we can build a new legacy, so we can transform our relationship to our home, both our physical home and our inner home, our inner world. And so this is going to feel incredibly intense, especially for those that are Leo rising. I'm not looking forward to it. My oldest daughter, my teenager, she is a Leo rising. Thankfully, she is a fourth house Libra, but the moon will still be sitting in her fourth house. And so there could be unexpected emotions bubbling up. There could be a desire to cleanse your space or even to like pack up and move. There could be a strong need for solitude, right? Scorpio is a very private energy. There could be a need for emotional safety as all of these old dynamics surface for that healing, okay? And so why is this so potent? I think you're probably wondering, why is this so potent? Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. Pluto is the planet of destruction, but destruction also leads to regeneration. And so, especially in this deeply rooted house of the fourth house, this is like a psycho-spiritual excavation, digging up the old patterns that no longer serve you, especially those that were learned in childhood or inherited energetically through the womb. And so with the moon ruling the fourth house naturally in astrology, with the full moon occurring in this house, it is going to be this energy of exaltation, which makes it extra potent. So it's a double emphasis on emotions, roots, and feminine energy as well of the subconscious. This is also going to trigger that mother wounding for a lot of the divine masculine. There's going to be themes of security versus surrender under this full moon. And the moon is really asking for the surrender of the emotional defenses so we can evolve. So what's likely going to be brought up for everybody in the collective is family secrets and revelations. There could be a very powerful breakdown followed by a breakthrough. And there's endings connected to a home or living situation, especially if the relationship is rooted in a family dynamic pattern where you are being urged to release that and to become more emotionally aligned in your spiritual life. And so realizations about the past that have basically unconsciously shaped you into your present moment. And so ask yourself this weekend, what patterns am I ready to release? What does emotional safety really look like for you? And what part of your inner child still needs to be heard and still needs to be held? Because this is where we're being asked to hold ourselves. And what emotional baggage are you still carrying that doesn't belong to you? And so this is classic full moon polarity, right? Between Taurus and Scorpio. Scorpio is all that I am and Taurus is all that I have, right? And so there's going to be emotional truth. There's going to be truth, death, rebirth, emotions versus security, grounding, and sensuality. And so we do have to choose, though, to shed the emotional baggage that is blocking real love and stability. And we do have to choose to release the old patterns of emotional enmeshment, or where we have sacrificed our truth. We can't chase, we need to attract. And so this really is the perfect weekend to ground in these spiritual lessons into the body. And I felt a lot of root chakra healing and root chakra pressure. And so we also will have later that day the moon in opposition to Uranus exact and in a trine to Saturn. So this is going to bring forward that tower moment of the illusions that we need to break free from, right? So I kind of feel sudden clarity for the divine feminine on the next steps to take. A spontaneous energetic shift I feel for the feminine. This is a portal for you, divine feminine, to embrace the unknown. Divine masculine is likely going to be the one experiencing the emotional disruption or awakening through a major loss or a surprise of some sort. It's going to be the lightning before the storm and before the breakthrough. And so we're in this major karmic alignment and completion, because with the moon trine Saturn at that 29 degree after the full moon energies, this is the integration of the karmic lessons from the Pisces Scorpio themes of soul contracts and surrender. And whatever ends now is meant to end. It's meant to stay done and buried. So stop digging up the graves of the past, okay? Make space for that divine union. Make space for that divine purpose, because divine feminine, you are going to be rewarded for your spiritual maturity. It's time to trust that the emotional work that you have done really is building your future as you align with your mission, whether union is present or not, okay? And this is a huge karmic checkpoint for the masculine. So he can choose to stay in fear or he can rise in emotional maturity. The choice is always going to be his. But the energy is supporting this divine timing of spiritual growth and long-term healing. But he's going to have to come to his own realization. And so some integration tips dealing with all of these energies. This full moon energy is asking the counterparts to feel. You have to feel the truth. You can't fear the truth, because we're at this critical point on the journey where we do have to let go of the old, because we can't build a new foundation holding on to the past or holding on to the old patterns, okay? And we've got to silence the ego. We have to silence the control. And so we're all being challenged right now to allow the heart to expand, to allow the heart to awaken, and also to release any emotional codependencies, right? Because our power truly lies in embodiment. So we're in a major karmic reset. Not everybody will reunite on this journey, and that is a fact. But we are going through a major energetic alignment. This weekend is a weekend of soul decisions, and so it's not going to be easy. It's going to be incredibly powerful. We are asked to shed that skin, right? That Scorpio skin, and to become our own source of safety. So release anything from your roots that keep you from growing is a big message, okay? Think of this as a psycho-spiritual cleanse. It is a soul bath. It is a soul bath, all right, in those scorpionic healing waters, okay? So because this is such an intense energy, I'm going to pull in with some shadow decks, with some inner child healing messages. Let's dig deep into these energies with the cards. If you are curious about your own birth chart, I do have a free guide to understanding the basics of your birth chart. If you're curious about following along with the transits and applying them to your own birth chart, comment free guide down below. I do also want to mention I have a 22-page ebook guide for the Twin Flame Collective on how to master the journey like a pro, like I have done. So if you're interested in that, comment Twin Flame Guide down below. But I think it's time. We're going to jump right into the cards, and we're going to see what the cards have to say for this weekend. Boy, oh boy, what a rich, layered, intense spread we have here today on the table. And so, like always, I will start off with the Divine Masculine, but we need to remember this full moon really is illuminating a lot, and the spread is kind of raw. I do feel there's a lot playing out here in the cards connected to this full moon. There's hidden pain, there's illumination of obsession, there could be identity crisis coming through, karmic ties, all of this, right? The sacrificial patterns, it's all in these cards. So let's break it down as how this could play out for the Divine Masculine first. And so with the Dark Mirror deck, I do have the Queen of My World card. And so this is the mirroring energy of power, of obsession, of possession, of projection. We've got the Inner Child card that came out, and it does say, choose yourself today, which is speaking of not denying your importance, Divine Masculine. So I feel with the Queen of My World card, there's a Queen of Wands energy, and so there's always two sides to a Queen of Wands energy. And so on one side, I have to say there is this obsessive longing for the Divine Feminine coming through on the masculine's end today, or perhaps even putting her up on a pedestal type energy, idealizing her, all while feeling unworthy, right? Or disempowered himself. And so on the other side, we do have the potential, though, for a karmic feminine entanglement, where I do feel the masculine has kind of sacrificed his truth to maintain control, or to avoid that confrontation. It's actually feeling pretty heavy. And I do feel there is this Mercury-Pluto influence kind of coming through here, where his mental body, I want to say, is being forced to see the truth as to where he's given his power away and where he needs to reclaim it. And so the Choose Yourself Today card, I do want to say, it is like this reflection of he's got to stop orbiting around others' perceptions of him, right? It really doesn't matter what people think of us. It matters if we choose our own worth. And so this is a card moving beyond that external validation or that external role. And so I kind of feel this is a crisis of identity wrapped in obsession this weekend for the Divine Masculine, where he is awakening to the love that he's awakening to this fact, I want to say, where love almost has become like a control energy, and devotion to the false contract has become like a codependency, is what this is feeling like. And so the key here, I want to say, is self-ownership. So he has to choose himself, right? And choosing himself doesn't mean rejecting the Divine Feminine. It does mean meeting her, I want to say, from a place of wholeness. And so Divine Feminine, your Dark Mirror card, let me grab the card here. It is the Black Flower Fragrance. And so you can kind of see all of these black flower petals coming out of the heart space, right? And the Inner Child card for you is Speak to Yourself with Kindness. And it's a 33 card. It's a master number. So you do need to become aware of how you speak to yourself, right? But I feel this is where you are in this portal of unhealed grief, heartbreak. All of the wounds around rejection and abandonment are coming up. And this is kind of why you need to speak to yourself with kindness. And so this is kind of like this energy of like you have learned to wear your pain like a perfume. Beautiful, but poisonous, right? If you leave that pain unprocessed. And so I kind of feel you are in the process of releasing a lot of deep grief, possibly ancestral grief, and connected to this journey that's probably been unprocessed. So I kind of feel this is where you have felt unseen, unloved, or discarded, and the moon is excavating the old heartbreak that has not been transmuted. And so any pain where you have romanticized somebody or internalized this as your identity, and so you do need to work on speaking to yourself with kindness. This is going to be crucial, because I think you're learning to mother yourself emotionally and to speak to your pain without judgment. And so it really is time to release that story of pain equals love, or that you must hurt well in order to prove that you're worthy of somebody. And so you are being asked to transform this grief into grace and to reclaim your beauty, not from a place of being broken, though, I want to say, but from a place of being true to yourself and being tender to yourself. And so the combined energy actually I thought was pretty interesting. We get the Is This Me card and the Sacrifice card on the bottom of the deck, right? And so, and we get the Review Your Responsibilities. And so not all responsibilities are ours to kind of hold. And so this kind of feels like a crossroads energy. And so there's a crisis of authenticity here, I want to say, or identity. I wanted to say identity and authenticity came out, so it kind of sounded funny.
But there's like a crisis of martyrdom as well, because on the bottom of the deck, we got the sacrifice card, right? And on the bottom of the deck of the inner child card, we got practice freedom, which is all about releasing the weight of the judgment, right? And so I think both the divine feminine and the divine masculine are staring into that mirror, and maybe you're not even recognizing yourself anymore. I almost feel like a 6 of Swords vibration with the review your responsibility card. And so this is like a deep cry this weekend for authentic alignment. We can't have intimacy with another until we shed all of those old masks, the old roles, the karmic stories that no longer resonate, right? And so if you are in a connection that is entangled in martyrdom or overgiving or overwaiting or suffering in silence, or you've been playing a role, keeping yourself in some type of limbo, you're going to have to get to the core shadow pattern in order to kind of release that, right? And so like a major crossroads energy, a major reviewal here. And so this full moon in Scorpio is kind of serving as a soul intervention. I got to say, like both of the twins here with this Is This Me card, it's a 4 card, which is about foundations. I think they're being asked of each other right now. You need to ask yourself, are you living in your truth? Or are you performing a role just to be able to receive love? That's a really tough one to sit with, right? What parts of you have you sacrificed just to belong to somebody that you believe you're on a twin flame journey with? Because we do have to get to a point where we move forward into a path of union, which is also a path of union of self. And so this full moon, I want to say, is really asking both of the twins for that honest reflection, that shadow integration, and that self-reclamation, reclamation. It's essential, right? And so union with another cannot be served by sacrifice. It is served by sovereignty, by being individual. And so both have to reclaim who they truly are. And that's only when the mirror will become polished and clear. And that's when we can have that more authentic connection, right? And so divine masculine energy was pretty heavy. His current emotional state is this King of Wands in reverse. And so I think he's feeling a little bit disempowered. The King of Wands in reverse can be volatile, can be angry, can be controlling, can be possessive, can be obsessive, can be unsure of his direction. This feels like deeply fragmented divine masculine energy. It actually doesn't feel like divine masculine energy at all. It feels like a lack of clarity, burning energy. It feels like a burning energy. Interesting. I'm burning a candle there. There's fear about leading with integrity. What are people going to think of me? It all comes back to denying that importance, right? And I kind of feel he's also feeling threatened by his own intensity and the way he actually is losing control by holding on to control so tightly, right? And so there is a situation here demanding sovereignty, is how I read that card today. The Page of Swords for me is that inner child energy coming through, and his inner child is vigilant, is guarded. It's like the spy archetype. I spy with my little eye. The Page of Swords is a spying energy, curious, suspicious, always on alert, right? And so this does suggest that the divine masculine went through some very early childhood trauma around not feeling safe to express himself or to speak up, which has really led to a lot of intellectual defensiveness. And so that's really coming up to be transmuted under the full moon. And look at that. The masculine got the moon card. And this is what is being revealed for the divine masculine in these energies this weekend. His hidden fears, his illusions, his subconscious truths, they're all going to surface, right? Look at all of the bats flying out of what appears to be like a portal or almost like a mirror. It's like all of the skeletons in the closet have to come out. All of the family secrets, all of the truth has to come out in that mirror. And it kind of feels like the facing of the mirror of projection and obsession aligning with that Queen of My World card with the Oracle message. And so there's a lot of emotional truths here that I want to say that have been buried or denied that are rising with a lot of intensity under the moon energies this weekend. And so the Two of Cups in reversed. This I want to say is the hidden below the surface energy. And we do see Venus in Cancer. So I don't know if you're dealing with a masculine. That's a Venus in Cancer. It doesn't have to be. But this is the acknowledgement of the heartbreak, the loss, and the separation. It's never been acknowledged. It's never been transmuted. There's never been a looking back at the separation. And so this is what's hidden below the surface. There's a lot of inner emotional fragmentation here surrounding the divine masculine, where he's feeling the disconnection, but he hasn't actually fully admitted the truth of the depth of the sorrow and regret of the separation of this connection. And then the last card out is the outcome of the full moon, and it's karma. It's justice. It's a major card. The universe is serving karma. Karma is going to have to be balanced out here. This is the divine masculine wake-up call. This is the divine masculine being confronted with the consequences of his actions. But on the other side of facing the consequences is that profound clarity that's going to be offered. But he has to choose integrity. He has to choose truth. He has to go towards the path that is being opened up to him. He has to move forward. And I do feel this ties into the King of Wands energy in reverse. And I also feel it ties into the King of Swords energy that came out on the bottom of the deck. Truth is the only key right now in these energies that will unlock the divine masculine's next chapter. Pretty heavy energies around the divine masculine. So divine feminine, you get the Nine of Wands card. This is the wounded healer card. This is your current emotional state. And I do feel you're wounded, but you're resilient, right? And so you're holding those emotional boundaries after many battles. I think you're battle weary here. You're probably feeling exhausted, but you're not giving up. There is a need for gentle self-protection this weekend, divine feminine, not from love, but from repeating the same karmic cycles. Stop repeating the same karmic cycles. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, okay? Your next card out is the Empress in reversed, and this is your inner child energy that is arising. You have some deep-seated inner child wounds around mothering, worthiness, receiving. You probably learned as a young child that love requires self-sacrifice or perfection even, which has led you down the pathway of emotionally overgiving, and it leads you into the pathway of burnout in your relationship. So that's a wound that needs to be drudged up and healed. But what's being revealed for you is the magician. You are the magician. Your words speak into the world, and it creates the reality that you want in your current life. And so you have manifestation powers. That's what's being revealed. Your power is returning. This is about you stepping into radical self-belief. You're being reminded that you're not just the nurturer. You are the creator, divine feminine. Without you, there is no creation. There is no life. You are the creator. You have to go into the hidden pain, and walking through the pain allows you to tap into that limitless potential to rebuild your life from the inside or the outside. But it really is about inner union. And so what's hidden below the surface for you is the Palace of Swords. It's like the Ace of Swords on steroids. You are craving, I want to say, this feels like craving that clarity, that peace, and that high frequency communication. Maybe you're afraid to demand it. I think you need to demand it. There's like a mental sanctuary here that you have been building. And in order to reclaim your sovereignty, you do have to communicate your truth. And you also need to detach emotionally, okay? Three of Cups reversed is the outcome of the full moon for you. This is the collapse of the third party illusion. That's really what I see, right? We see all the masks falling off, right? The collapse of the karmic interference, the collapse of emotional triangulation. You're no longer willing to be a part of anything fragmented, anything unreciprocated, any type of third-party dynamic. You're done with it. So this is a very quiet and powerful withdrawal from any false joy that has taken place in your life or on your journey, okay? Pretty profound energies coming through for the twins this weekend. And so let's talk about the combined tarot spread. The Knight of Wands is the current energy of the connection. As you can see, it did come out in reversed. So there is a push-pull dynamic here playing out in this twin flame dynamic where there's a desire for the connection, but there's also a lot of impulsivity when it comes to reacting from wounding, okay? And so I think both of the twins are feeling the passion, but basically there's no stability here. There's forward motion, but there's no direction. And so this is a big warning of a false start. There could be sexual tension or ego-driven reactions this weekend, okay? The Page of Coins reversed is actually the next card out, which I want to say is like the shared mirroring wound from childhood. So there's a mutual fear, I want to say, of failure and rejection. So I think both of the twins learned early on in childhood that offering something wasn't enough. So there's like a holding back out of fear that their offering will be dismissed or judged. I think there's a deep-seated mirror core wound here of self-worth in giving and receiving love that both of the twins need to work through, right? And it is, you can see that mirroring energy in this spread here. And so the karma between the twins is the World in reversed. So the karmic cycle has not fully closed yet. I think both are still stuck in a loop of unfinished lessons, unfinished business. But with that moon going into that energy of that 29th degree connecting to Saturn in Pisces, there's going to be that unfinished business coming to light. And so this full moon energy is offering the portal to break the loop, is what I want to say, but only if both of the twins surrender the illusion. You have to surrender the illusion. You have to step into authentic accountability. That's the only way to close out the karmic cycle, right? Knight of Coins in reversed is what's hidden in the shadows. And so the connection is stalled, let's face it. It's stalled. It's in a place of either one or both unwilling to truly invest in the long haul. There's an undercurrent, a deep undercurrent of procrastination and avoidance, spiritual resistance, I want to say, to doing the deeper, harder inner work. And that's just how I'm reading that today. But the overall outcome of the full moon is the Two of Swords in reversed. And all of the power just went out. So that's interesting and divinely timed. Interesting. Clarity is going to come, but it might feel disruptive. So, oh, and the light just come back on. So I don't know what that was all about, but everything that happens during a reading is meant to happen. So this is about the light coming back on. And so this really is about, I want to say, something's going to be disruptive here. I think this is about finally making a decision that's been avoided, likely initiated by the divine feminine forcing the divine masculine to respond. Or the universe might even intervene here. But this is where the blindfold comes off. Give me 1 second, guys. My daughter snuck downstairs, but I just want to say this is where the blindfold has to come off. This is where the path has to be chosen. There's no going back. We're at the point of no return, okay? So let's quickly talk about the bottom of the deck because my little one is upset because the power went off and her show came off of the TV upstairs. So we get the Death reversed, and so there's a lot of resistance to the transformation, okay? There could be clinging to old versions of who you used to be, or an old version of relationships or this connection. The ego death is definitely underway, but I feel one or both are kind of stalling the progress. We did get the Six of Swords in reversed, and we got the King of Swords upright. And so there is emotional baggage here that's still being carried. It's like there's a desire to move forward, but something keeps pulling, I feel, the divine masculine backward into the unresolved trauma. This also does speak of unfinished business for me that needs resolution before peace can kind of be achieved. And the divine masculine, he's going to have to speak from that truth, from the soul, not the ego. So he really is the one being called this weekend to drop the mask and to communicate with wisdom and integrity. That's really the only way for him to exit that karmic loop, is through transparency and accountability. So let's quickly close it up here with the message from the universe, because the message from the universe was the Guru card. And so the universe is speaking through the Guru archetype today, reminding the twins that this journey, with all of its twists, all of its turns, all of the karmic loops and revelations, it is not just about romance. It is about a sacred alignment. It's something more sacred than we even realize. And so this is a call to embody spiritual mastery through all of life's initiations, to trust in the divine will, even when the path feels uncertain or heavy, and to anchor into that state of oneness, knowing that union truly does begin within. And so where the masculine is being called to lead with truth and reclaim his inner fire, I do feel the feminine is being guided to nurture herself with radical compassion and to create her own form of magic. And so this is a card reminding both of the twins that this dance is not about control, but it is about surrender. And so this weekend is a moment to walk by faith, to surrender the outcome, but to stay aligned with your mission too, and to choose courage over fear, because the Guru energy is not external. It is the voice of the higher self. And so my final message to you all this weekend is trust in the divine plan, walk in that alignment with your soul, and trust that you are love itself. You are the love, you are the truth, and you are the light that you seek.